Hey now, happy Wednesday. The hours become days and the days become weeks. Nick Thompson, that's my name, in the bunker again this Wednesday late in March during the quarantine and social distancing and shelter at home and stay in place. And anyway, trying to play music for you and uplift your spirits as we're all in this together, even though we're dealing with it very much alone. And hey, I host a program called the Sunday Best Sunday mornings on WEMU at 10 a.m. every Sunday, and we do old-fashioned music. We're doing all sorts of different stuff from the bunker during the quarantine, just sort of whatever inspiration strikes. And a lot of this music is really for the purpose of uplifting us during this isolating time. And we've been doing McCoy Tyner this week in the 1970s, and we're gonna do that again today. And this is really because it's uplifting, because it is beautiful. I think it'll help you through the little bit of time you have with him today, but also because he passed away. And as I've mentioned the last couple days, I was reflecting on his career as a pianist, and I'm personally really interested in the work he did for the Milestone label in the 1970s. If you missed episodes 1 and 2, I encourage you to go back. We did Inner Voices on Monday. We did Enlightenment, his live effort, on Tuesday. And today we're going to look at and listen to, and we can look at it too. I'm not used to saying that because usually I'm on the regular old-fashioned radio. Let's see if I can pull this up. This is Sahara. This is the one we're doing today. I'll put a real picture up of it so it's not just me looking like I don't understand technology and I have to hold up pictures of stuff. I'll make it feel like the modern age. This is a record from 1973 when it was released, and maybe overlooked to this point that when it came out, this was from the Downbeat Critics Poll, Jazz Record of the Year in 1973 from McCoy Tyner. And it's a really beautiful record. It's a dynamic and diverse album. He is really showcasing his talents in a few different, a few different outlets, a few different ways, featuring Sonny Fortune and Calvin Hill and Alphonse Mouzon, the percussionist and drummer who also was on Enlightenment, the album that we heard yesterday, Tuesday that is. And I'm actually going to get this one going here for us. He does there it is. Prayer for My Family is the track in the background. This is solo piano off of this effort from McCoy. And I thought a nice one to put in the background, and then in a moment we'll move to one of the pieces that I think is more representative of the album as a whole. Worth mentioning that McCoy really is, I mentioned, trying to give you his all on this recording. He not only works on the piano, but he also does some percussive work as well. He's not just a pianist. He plays a flute on the album in a few spots. So it's a somewhat dynamic record. I want to tell you that after he was sort of done with working with John Coltrane, and he did some standards recording, or album of jazz standards, excuse me. But he also had to start taking odd jobs. He kind of fell out of music by necessity and went through what I think most people would go through as they're sort of at the top of the jazz world. And then once they're off on their own, it becomes a little bit more difficult, and audiences don't show up for McCoy Tyner on his own, unfortunately, the way they would have playing alongside John Coltrane. And so the living got a little bit more tenuous and difficult. So he fell out of music a bit. So he came back into it with this record. That's the important thing. Sahara was his re-entry into the popular jazz scene. And he immediately won Jazz Record of the Year from Downbeat, which is the place to win a jazz recognition award. You know, that's really the critical, if you're going to get critical acclaim, getting it from Downbeat is the place you want to get it from. And I like playing this for you. I made a similar comment yesterday. McCoy Tyner in the 1970s was gorgeous, beautiful stuff. He's winning Album of the Year. And how often do you come across Sahara these days? It's really unfortunate. It's a great record with Sonny Fortune's kind of a big name on saxophone. I think he was on 70 records, maybe more. I mean, he played with Mingus and Miles Davis. I think he played with Dizzy Gillespie. He's all over the place, and he definitely is from that sort of Coltrane school of playing. We'll hear a little bit of that in a moment as we change gears. Calvin Hill, very much overlooked. He led some bands and had a good, fruitful, long life as a musician, but not a household name. And Alphonse Mouzon, the drummer, he even does some trumpet work on this album. So it's a really nice group working together. What do you think of McCoy? Just on solo. Him and his lush technique as we move into I thought we would do, let me pull up. We'll do the title track. So the album has a series of recordings on the A side, and then the B side is taken up entirely by the song Sahara. It's like 23 and a half minutes long, and you get a pretty good amount of variety on the album. I mentioned that before. Sahara is certainly more on the I like this one because it starts off a little bit on the edge, a little bit on the avant side. I think that's Alphonse on trumpet opening this up, and I believe there's a little that this is McCoy on flute, because Sonny Fortune does flute later in the record, but I think that anyway, that's the entry point, and the opening intro here. It makes way for a more, I don't want to say straight ahead, but a more standard approach to the music. There is definitely some influences of the art ensemble on this recording. There's some Cecil Taylor influences on McCoy's attacking style. His soulful, lush approach to the piano is there as well, but he's pushing through these pieces. Now, I'll get out of the way in a minute and let them tell you about it, right? That's important. I am trying to keep these things kind of short so they're not too much to digest. But yeah, that's kind of the opening salvo after the prologue. And we'll let this one ramp up. This is edgier than, it's along the lines of what we did yesterday with Enlightenment, but I think this is so great. I mean, I go back and forth myself between wanting to do like really straight ahead swinging, feel good jazz and blues, or even, folk rock, when I'm sort of dealing with the pressures and anxiety of a international mandatory quarantine. Pretty strange. And I go from that joyous, feel-good stuff to something that's a little bit more emotionally, I don't want to say ambiguous, but there's a lot more confusion in the feelings generated by what McCoy does on this title track from Sahara. I don't want to say that there's anger in there. I think it's the confusion that appeals to me. Almost like he's trying to make sense out of things. And isn't that kind of the way many of us feel right now? Let me let him play for you a little bit. I know I'm rambling, I know. Now, there's Sonny Fortune. This might not be dinner jazz, but this is the kind of music I'd put on if I was making dinner, especially if it was spicy. I had to do a little bit of splicing there. We had some technical difficulties. Maybe you didn't even notice. I'm going to let this one play out. I hope you're enjoying the music. I hope it makes you feel good. Oh yeah, Sonny's getting... Yeah. There's some... Right? There's some question. That's a question mark. He's trying to figure things out. Just like us. Just like us. Yeah, this is a lot different than what you'll hear on Sunday morning on the Sunday Best. I encourage you to check it out nonetheless. If you want to hear Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Teddy Wilson and Fats Waller, that's what we do 10 a.m. Sunday morning. Nick Thompson again. Otherwise, dig the jazz on WEMU Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. Support your community NPR station. Hang in there. I appreciate you. We're all in this together on our own terms right now, huh? All right, enjoy a little bit more McCoy, and I'll get with you tomorrow. I think we're going to do another McCoy album in the 70s on Thursday, and I haven't decided. Maybe another one Friday. Maybe we'll do something a little bit different for the weekend. Take it easy.